So I'm Ryan Michael Galloway with We Don't Need No Stinking Record Company.com, and I'm here with Tom Creason of the Texas Musicians Museum in Hillsboro, Texas, which gets visitors from around the world who are fascinated by some pretty rich Texas music history. But we get into the history, and we might for a minute, but right now I'd like to talk to you about this event you just put on. You did your very first crawfish party, right?
Well, actually, it was kind of like our second. First time
okay.
around, we hadn't really planned to start this thing. We did it at a friend of ours' restaurant, and all these people showed up. We didn't even really advertise it. We thought, wow, this is kind of a unique thing. Let's try to do it.
Kick it up a notch. So,
yeah.
So you invited a whole bunch of musicians, Texas musicians, I might add, and I was honored to get to come here and play. And that's really nice to play these kinds of things because it turns into a chance to network with a bunch of other musicians, and we really appreciate it, Tom. And also the fact that the sound on the stage is usually like all taken care of, and so you just get to like show up and play, and talk and try each other's instruments and talk shop and greet the crowd or whatever. So that's a lot of fun. How many? One of the attractions, though, is what I like about it is you're not just attracting with the musicians, but you're bringing food in. And how many vendors did you have here today?
We had about 30 or 40 vendors here.
That's a pretty good party.
And and some of them took a lot more spaces than just one vendor space too. So really, if you add it up, there's probably 50 to plus vendor spaces that were taken up. This was in our big backyard, as we like to call it, the Texas Musicians Museum.
So one of the things I'm trying to teach people is sometimes these bigger events where maybe you don't just try to put on a concert yourself with 2 or 3 other bands or just your own band and attract a bunch of people. This is more of a festival situation.
Well, you got to come up with a theme sometimes because you can do entertainment and music, and that's great. But sometimes you got to have these things that kind of hook things in. And we found that crawfish was a really successful thing. And after we did that first one, we were astounded to find out that there was another event that happens in Houston. And we did a little research on it. We found out they've been doing it for almost 20 years or a little more. But they've now gotten to where they do it 3 weekends in a row, which is unprecedented, as far as events go. Usually, the one weekend is pretty good.
You pretty much spent at that point.
So we figured there was some magic here.
Well, anytime you got crawfish in the South, anywhere in Louisiana or Texas or maybe Mississippi or something like that, you're going to draw a crowd. I got a feeling it's almost like offering free beer.
Right. Yeah.
So are you gonna try to do this again?
Yes, it was a hard chore. I'll tell you, there's a couple times I was going through this thing with all the work we had to put into it. I thought, well, I don't know if I want to do this again, but I think it's something that we can do because it really brought a lot of people in the museum who might not have ever been in the museum. We had an open house, and that really was a great thing for us.
And we musicians appreciate the exposure too. I'll tell you what, tomorrow night we're going to come back and talk to you for just a minute about some lessons learned, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I am Ryan Michael Galloway with Tom Creason of the Texas Musicians Museum, and of course I'm with We Don't Need No Stinking Record Company.com.